Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a hidden household mystery that literally affects the air we breathe every single day. We're exploring the surprising science of indoor air quality, and trust me, we are looking way beyond the surface level of a clean home. Which brings us right to our core focus question for today. Can you have high indoor mold spore levels even without visible mold? Okay, let's dive into this, because the answer is going to challenge everything you probably assume about a spotless house. The answer is a huge, resounding yes. And honestly, this totally shatters a fundamental misconception we have about indoor air. Your home can look absolutely spotless, smell perfectly fine, and yet still be heavily contaminated with microscopic spores. The blunt truth here? Visual cleanliness simply does not equal a mold-free environment. Doing your standard weekend cleaning, dusting, vacuuming, that actually does absolutely nothing to fix this underlying issue. We're talking about particles that are just 1 to 30 microns in size. Just to put that into perspective for a second, these spores are so unfathomably tiny that they're entirely invisible to the naked eye. You could literally have thousands of spores per cubic meter of air in the room you're sitting in right now, and you'd have absolutely no visual clue that they are floating right in front of your face. Let's talk about the invisible highways. So how do they get in? Well, spores naturally enter the home through some pretty standard baseline entry points. Every time you open a door or window, they drift right in. They'll hitch a ride on your clothing, your shoes, or even your dog's fur after a quick walk outside. But here's the thing you need to know. This baseline level of spore introduction, it's completely normal. Outdoor mold spores are just an unavoidable part of life. The real problem doesn't start at the front door. It escalates when your home's interior provides the perfect, cozy conditions for these wandering spores to settle down and multiply. And that brings us to your HVAC system. Your heating and cooling setup is obviously designed to circulate air, right? Well, unfortunately, it also acts as an absolute superhighway for spores. Think about it. If you've got an active, hidden mold colony releasing spores near just one return air vent, your HVAC system pulls them all in and then blindly blasts them out through the ductwork to every single room in the house. It's crazy, but this perfectly explains why a hidden mold issue in a damp, unfinished basement might actually be causing your severe allergy symptoms all the way up in a second-floor bedroom. Now let's uncover the hidden layers. This all hinges on something called the germination threshold. And this is actually a pretty surprising fact from the research. Mold absolutely does not need a puddle, a leak, or standing water to grow. Nope. Many species will actually start actively growing on surfaces simply when the relative humidity in the room rises above 70%. Everyday materials, stuff like drywall, wood framing, ceiling tiles, they just absorb enough ambient moisture right out of the humid air to feed a completely invisible colony. So where are these usual suspects actually hiding? Well, you'll find them inside walls near those slow, sneaky pinhole leaks in your bathroom or kitchen. They're in crawl spaces silently absorbing ground moisture, up in attics trapping warm condensation during the winter. They love porous basement block foundation walls, and they'll even hide behind wallpaper adhesive and ceiling tiles. A colony in literally any of these spots can actively shed spores into your living space for weeks, months, or even years before it ever leaves a single visible stain on your wall. Let's look at the body's alarm system. Since we breathe these in, our respiratory tract takes the very first hit. You might be dealing with persistent nasal congestion, itchy or watery eyes indoors, a chronic cough, or even just unexplained fatigue and headaches. It really mimics a never-ending cold. But the giveaway? Mold-related symptoms rarely come with a fever. And instead of clearing up in a week or so like a typical viral bug, they just persist for months on end. I really want you to think about this question for a second. Do your symptoms mysteriously clear up when you go away for the weekend or take a vacation, but then suddenly return the literal minute you walk back inside your house? Because that pattern right there, that is one of the absolute strongest indicators that your indoor environment is the source of the problem. It is literally your body's alarm system trying to tell you exactly where the threat is. And we have to talk about the urgency here, because it's incredibly high for specific populations. We're talking kids under 12 whose respiratory systems are still developing, elderly adults, anyone with asthma or existing mold allergies, and immunocompromised folks. For these groups, elevated spore levels aren't just a mild, annoying sniffle. They can trigger severe, rapid health impacts way faster than in a healthy adult. Watchful waiting is just not an option for them. So let's talk about neutralizing the threat. Think of it this way, and I love this quote from the source material. Running an air purifier while an active mold colony grows behind your bathroom wall is like mopping the floor while the faucet is still running. I mean, it's the absolute perfect metaphor. It brilliantly illustrates the difference between merely managing your symptoms and actually fixing the root cause. You've got to shut off the faucet. Now, while you're hunting down that hidden source, there is a super fast step you can take today. Those standard fiberglass filters, the cheap ones with a MERV rating of 1 to 4, they capture virtually zero mold spores. But if you simply upgrade your HVAC filter to a pleated MERV 11 filter, it will significantly reduce the spore distribution through your duct system. It's a really easy, immediate mitigation step. But to truly solve the problem, you've got to follow a solid mitigation strategy. Step 1, control the moisture. You want to keep your indoor humidity strictly between 30 and 50%. Step 2, improve ventilation in high-risk rooms, definitely your bathrooms and kitchens. Step 3, use true HEPA filtration to capture airborne spores while you're actually fixing the issue. And finally, step 4, if symptoms persist, bring in a pro. Schedule a professional dampness and mold inspection. These pros have calibrated moisture meters and thermal imaging cameras that can actually see into your walls without tearing them down. Let's actually circle back to step 2 for a quick second, ventilation. 50 CFM. That stands for cubic feet per minute, and it is the absolute bare minimum reading required for a bathroom exhaust fan. You need to be running this fan during every single shower and, critically, for at least 20 minutes afterward to properly pull that moisture out of the air. A lot of standard, builder-grade fans fall way short of doing this effectively after just a couple of years. Look, if you take away only one thing from our explainer today, please let it be this. Mold is not the root problem. It's merely a symptom of unresolved moisture. You can replace all your air filters, you can scrub every surface with bleach, but if the moisture source remains, I guarantee you those spores are coming back. Moisture is the real root problem. Fix the water, and you fix the mold problem at its root. So we've uncovered the science behind the invisible spread, explored the hidden layers, and walked through the critical solutions. I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. You've cleaned the surfaces. Your home looks totally pristine. But what are you actually breathing? Is it maybe time to stop trusting the spotless illusion and start checking behind your walls? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer today. Keep learning and keep asking those right questions.